It's episode 70 of Off Script with Trish Glose, intimate interviews and fun conversations with interesting people. In front of my mic today, I am super lucky to have Andrew Pollack. I met you a couple of weeks ago. You stopped by the station to do an interview with me. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you.
You are known to a lot of people around the country and around the world because of your involvement. Would you call yourself an activist?
For school safety, that people could learn. I like to educate parents. That's
Right.
my thing now. I want to educate parents what's going on.
I know, and I think it's a very important message that you have. Your daughter, Meadow, was killed in the Parkland, Florida shooting.
Yes.
People know Parkland very, very
Meadow
well.
was murdered February 14th of 18, shot 9 times on the 3rd floor.
Right.
And my life's never been the same since.
Never been the same since. We're going to talk about Meadow. We're going to talk about that day a lot and what has come after that. But first, where are you from originally, Andrew Pollack?
I was born in Brooklyn.
What? You were born in Brooklyn?
Yeah, if you could tell, right?
I'm teasing
So I was
you.
born in Brooklyn, and then I moved. My parents moved to Long Island, and I lived in Long Island for most of my life. And,
Okay.
And I really think New York's probably in my heart, where what is in my soul as being a New Yorker.
It's definitely in your accent.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
And I just loved growing up. When I grew up in the '80s, it was just a great place to live.
Pollack is what, besides your last name? What is that?
Ukrainian.
Really?
Ukrainian, Russian, and Jewish.
Oh, wow. That's a nice little melting pot. Who was Jewish? Mom, dad?
Well, all of them were. That's the religion. And
Okay.
then my grandparents were Ukrainian.
Ukrainian.
And Russian.
Were they born in New York or did they come over?
No, my grandparents were born in Ukraine.
In the Ukraine. Okay.
Yeah, Ukraine. They were born in the Ukraine and Russia,
Okay.
and they had to flee different times because of
yeah.
persecution.
Right.
So my parents were the first generation to be born in the States.
Wow, that's pretty cool. What was it like growing up did you mostly grow up in Long Island?
Yeah, I grew up all in Long Island, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
In the
I had
80s?
My years, I tell people, was like the greatest time. I still remember all the good times. And I tell people, like, now kids are worried about school shootings and where to run, where to hide. When I went to high school, we just worried where we were going to get the cold beer, after school, where we're going to drink it, who's having the party on Friday night.
Right.
It was nothing about, we weren't worried about these things.
At all.
That social media, we just had a good time growing up. We worked, we partied. We did our thing in school, and we graduated.
I know. I think about that too. I graduated high school in '98, and the first school shooting really for me was Columbine, but I was in college, and it just never. That's something you did not worry about. Yeah, you worried about who was gonna buy your booze that weekend,
and who was having the party, the football party, lacrosse party, and we just had great times.
Okay.
And I still keep in touch with a lot of my high school buddies.
That's awesome. Did you grow up with siblings?
Yeah, brother and sister. We all moved to Florida from New York.
Okay. Where are you in the lineup?
I'm the last. I'm the youngest.
You're the baby.
I'm the baby of the family, and
I'm the
my
baby
sister's
too.
the oldest.
Okay.
It's something about being the baby, right?
There is. I talk about that a lot on this podcast. People think I'm crazy, but there's something about being the baby. We are special.
We were treated a little better. My siblings were very jealous at certain times. They always said I got the better of the treatment. But also by the third one, your parents aren't as strict. Mm-hmm. So they were more lenient probably with me than my brother and my sister. I
mean, we're the best looking. We're the funniest. Kind of like everybody wants to hang out with us.
They saved the best
for last. Exactly. Right? So true. So you grow up in Long Island. What were you like in high school besides looking for the party? Were you just a fun guy? Were you an athlete?
I wasn't much of a student, but I had to go on test day just to make sure I passed. Yeah. That was what I had to do in high school. But I always knew that being a student wasn't for me. I was always into business. I started working when I was like probably about 12.
Doing what?
Paper routes back then. I had a paper route in the morning, like the newspaper. I delivered before school, and then I had one after. Mm-hmm. And then I was always in a business all the way up until I was 49.
What did you want to be when you grew up? Did you know? Or were you a floater?
No, no, I was never a floater. I always worked. I worked like nonstop. So I was in the scrap metal business for over 10 years in New York. That played a big role in what I did, and I was just an entrepreneur, and I liked being my own boss. I liked making my own hours, and I wasn't good at taking orders from people.
Sounds interesting. I could guess that about you. You didn't like taking orders from anybody.
Yeah, and and that's what if you have your own business, it comes with a lot of stress. I see friends now that went the other path and they became cops, and they got great pensions, 80, 90, 100,000 a year, and they never had the stress that I've had. But when you work for a government or something like that, your pay is always the same, and there's never any stress, if not as much.
Have you had stress with work?
Oh, it's like when any business, when you own your own business with receivables, and I had trucks, the truck breaks down, the guy doesn't show up to work,
totally,
stuff like that. But in the end of the day, it paid off. Now I'm pretty much semi-retired.
Nice.
And like today, I told you, I closed on my property here in Oregon.
I know. You just moved to Oregon.
Yep.
Which is why, again, I met you a few weeks ago, and I just thought how great it would be to have you on my podcast. But you have moved to Southern Oregon, and I want to say welcome to Southern Oregon. It's one of the most beautiful places.
Yeah, I'm really liking it.
Good.
Good. I looked all over the place, and I like the close proximity to Redding, where my wife's family's from, and.
But you weren't going to live in California.
No, I'm not going to live with those people in California. I got away from that in Florida.
Okay.
I didn't come here to be around that type of element. So I really enjoy being out here in Jacksonville, out east.
All right, beautiful. And so let's get back, though, to Long Island. You said you married your high school sweetheart?
Yes.
Okay. And you guys had children together?
3 kids. I had 2 boys. Huck is my oldest. He's 23 now.
That's an adorable
24.
name, by the way.
And then Hunter. Hunter, a lot of people see he's been on TV a lot. He's very outspoken, and I'm proud of all my boys. And he's studying now in FSU, and he's studying to take his LSATs.
Oh, he wants to be an attorney?
He wants to be an attorney now.
Good
he
for
never
him.
went to school, so his life turned around after what happened to his sister.
Yeah.
And he's striving to be successful. Both of my sons, one's into the finance.
I love that.
And he's in school. And then Meadow was already enrolled. She was enrolled in a university in Boca Raton, and she never made it.
Yeah.
So that we know about that.
Where does the name Huck come from?
Oh, I used to read it in Huck Finn. Yeah, I love it.
I love that.
Yeah, so he's. It was funny. So when he was born, we named him Dylan, and his middle name was Huck, but we always called him Huck. So he went to school, and they would call him Dylan, and no, he wasn't answering it. He didn't answer. So I'm like, so we went and changed it to his first name. So and now it's Huck.
Okay, so you decide to. At what point do you decide to move the family to Florida?
My parents moved.
Okay.
My sister, my brother moved. And I was working like around the clock in the scrap metal business, and I got an opportunity to sell it. And I figured it would be a better life for my kids. It turned out it was the worst thing I could have done. But Florida, the weather was great, sports all the time, and it was a nice community. It was like an upper class community I moved to, where there wasn't even a street light in the community.
Wow.
And it was just I thought I was making the right decision, but I evidently didn't.
How old were the kids when you moved? Did you move to Parkland or right outside Parkland?
Oh, to Parkland. I lived in Parkland, and my kids were, under 10 when I moved.
Okay. And you were still married to your wife?
Yeah, I was married.
Okay, but you guys got divorced in 2009, you said?
Yeah, 2009.
Okay.
They were like, my kid must have been about 12, 13, my oldest.
Okay. Was it something where there was a divorce, but you both were still very involved in your children?
Yeah, I lived very close, and I coached my kids growing up, and my kids are my whole life. I always put my kids first, but you think, when I think about it, you think you're sending them to a good school, and you have made a mistake.
Well, yes. Are you close with your parents and your siblings still?
Yeah, my dad passed a couple of years ago, and my mom I talk to all the time, and my sons almost every day I speak with.
Okay.
It's crazy now. I'm talking to them because they got that hurricane that they're bordering
right Dorian,
bordering
we were
so
talking about
hopefully, they're in South Florida. Hopefully it moves north.
Exactly. And all the family is still in Florida.
Everyone is in
Junior
Broward
wife.
County.
Okay. So let's fast forward a little bit. Your kids are growing up. I mean, going to school, fairly successful, right?
I had the greatest life. I met a wonderful woman who I'm married to now.
Right.
And I had the greatest life. She's an ER physician. I own real estate, and we had everything to look forward to. We had our freedom. Our kids were older. We were preparing to take, we loved to travel. I was going to the gym like twice. I loved working out. We both did CrossFit together, and we enjoyed it. And everything couldn't have been better up until that day.
Right, that day, February 14th, 2018.
Yeah, correct.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Your two boys are out of school. They graduated, right?
No, that school, yeah, but they're in college now.
Right. Meadow was a senior, getting ready to graduate.
She was graduating, already accepted into the college.
What did she want to do? What did
she wanted to be a lawyer. And you know what? She was the most like me, my daughter. The other, I tell stories like we'd take them to the doctor for a shot, and the two boys would cry, and my daughter would just take it, and she was so tough, and she knew she had me wrapped around her finger, whatever she wanted. She knew how to work daddy. So,
she was also the baby, too.
Yeah, she was the baby, and, she knew how to work me, but she was so tough, and she was beautiful, and she was like a tomboy also, but she could put a dress on and be a supermodel. And she was smart, and she was just very outgoing. And
beautiful girl.
You saw the pictures and taken from me.
I just realized, I sort of just did the math in my head. This was just last February. This was just last year.
This February will be 2 years.
Yeah, okay, so this was in 2017.
18. We're going in this February, it'll be 2020.
Okay, you're right. I'm a journalist. I can't add very well. My apologies.
That's all right.
But this was just...
I'll help you.
Thank you. Not this past February, but this was just last year.
Yeah.
This happened just last year. This is so fresh still.
I'm devastated. I can't even tell you what it's done to me and how it's changed me. And I can't even... It's hard for me to even enjoy my life at anything I do.
Right.
If I go out, people invite me to weddings. I don't want to go to a wedding. You know what I mean? I don't even want to. I can't even go out and have a good time. I go out, I'll do things, but to go out and be happy and enjoy myself is very difficult.
Do you find sometimes that you're out with some friends maybe, or you have friends over and someone makes a joke and you laugh and you almost instantly stop yourself because you're like, I can't be happy?
Not really that way. I just I can't be happy at planning things to go out, even with my family and stuff. But I once in a while, someone tells me a good joke, I'll laugh.
Good. But have to.
Yeah. I don't. It's not that way. It's just like it's hard for me to go and enjoy things, knowing all these things that tore my heart out.
When was the last time you saw Meadow?
It couldn't have been a few days before. She was living with her mom, but she texts all the time,
Okay.
and I'm always in touch with my sons and my daughter.
Well, you don't think, obviously, that something like this is going to happen, so you
That's
don't feel
that's
that
the problem.
need.
No one thinks that it could happen to them,
right?
And then it happens.
It happens.
So that's the problem.
So tell me about that day, February 14th.
Oh, that day was Valentine's Day.
Yep.
So I went with a picnic with my wife, and then the phone just started ringing. And
your cell phone?
Yeah, my phone was ringing. I was on a bike, and we were we were making a loop. It was a few miles to loop, and then my phone rang, and you don't think anything. Oh, Dad, there was a shooting. You don't think it's a massacre. You just think it was some type of accidental shooting or something happened at the school. But I wouldn't think it was a massacre. And then as the day, we were trying to get home, and then we didn't go to the school. We couldn't get her on the phone, so we didn't go to the school. And we ended up, then we went to the hospitals looking for her, and we couldn't find her in the hospitals. And by after that, once you don't hear from your kid in this day and age, I knew that it wasn't good. Mm-hmm. And then the detectives came to my house about 2 a.m. that night. But we didn't reach her the whole time, so I knew that it wasn't going to be good news. I was already accepting it.
At that point, though, do you just have this, because obviously there's always going to be hope. There's going to be some sort of hope that your kid is not one of the victims. At some point, though, when you're learning, I just don't think. I don't think Meadow made it. Do you just have this like sick feel? What's happening?
By 6 o'clock, I knew, because even if your kids, there's someone next to them with a phone, you're going to call their mother. You know what I mean? She would have called their mother right away. And my wife's a ER doctor, so she knew everybody that worked in the hospitals. So we went and checked the hospitals. I sent my wife into the OR room to look to see if it was Meadow. And so I knew by 6 o'clock that she must have been murdered. And then I found out. Then they came by 2 in the morning. We just were waiting there. All the family got together, and we were just waiting. And it's just
I
a
can't
day
even
I'll never
imagine.
forget. And it's just, I still can't believe it that it happened to me. That I look at pictures all the time, and I think about her all the time. But you still don't think it's real. Like, how could it have been my daughter? Out of all the people, my daughter got murdered at the school. It's hard to believe that it could happen. But it's happened, and it's happened again.
This particular shooting at Parkland was random. I mean, it's not like Meadow was a target.
No, but this kid was a sick kid, and that's what pushed me to write my book. And everything that happened after the shooting pushed me to look into what happened.
Right. She was on the third floor of the school?
Floor, and no one was going to save her at all.
Okay.
They hid. The cops hid outside the building.
We're going to talk about that. Did they tell you, because I know you have details about how she was killed. I mean, you tell me she was up there on the third floor, and the shooter was up there as well.
Yeah.
And what did they tell you that she did?
Well, I know what's horrible is the school was supposed to replace the fire alarms, and they didn't, because it was supposed to be on a delayed system. So when you shoot a firearm inside, smoke comes out of the gun. So the smoke made the fire alarms go off. So my daughter's teacher just happened to be an imbecile. She was on the third floor. There was 90 rounds that went off, okay, and then the smoke alarms went off.
Okay.
And so she had her students go out into the hallway. There hasn't been a fire in a school where a kid died since 1960. So my daughter's teacher opened the door, let all the kids out after hearing all the rounds go off. And then she got shot 4 times down the hallway, and then the teacher shut the door and locked people out that couldn't get back in. So my daughter was trapped out in the hallway, and then she covered one of the other girls, Kara. She covered her, and this animal came and shot my daughter another 5 times at point blank, and the bullets went through my daughter, and it killed the girl underneath her too.
Killed both of them.
Both of them while she was trying to save her. And this teacher closed the door and went inside. But other teachers that I keep in touch with on the third floor recognized what was going on, because they had the proper training and maybe a higher IQ. And they shut the doors, and they didn't let any of their kids out, and they were heroes, these teachers.
Yeah. A lot of teachers do a really good job
Oh,
in these
yeah,
situations.
and it's training and just having common sense to not have let those kids out. But I keep in touch with the teachers from the third floor.
That's nice.
Others, and they were really affected by it, traumatized. To this day, they're still traumatized of what they saw and what they went through.
I can't imagine having to go back and teach.
2 weeks they had to go back without any mental health care, and it was pretty rough. They had to go back, and they're never, like me, they're not going to be the same. They walked over bodies, to get out of the classroom, and they had to go back to work within 2 weeks. They made them go back, and they have to see that building every day. It's still up. They surrounded it because it's a crime scene. So there's like a wall going around, like a fence, barricade around the building, because there's still it's a crime scene still for the trial.
How do you know that they didn't get any mental health? Did they tell you that?
I know them.
Okay, and they said they didn't get any counseling?
No counseling at all.
Wow.
And they need it. I hope they're going to this day.
That almost seems criminal. That
It's
you
just
put
horrible, what everyone's went through, and they didn't get the proper mental health care. And then we had a couple of suicides a year later in the town. Some other students.
Because it was just too much.
They just one of them was Meadow's friend that killed themselves.
Okay, let's. A lot of investigations actually came out of the shooting.
A lot. We did a lot in Florida. I give what we got accomplished in Florida. A lot of other states could learn from what we did.
Okay. News stories essentially came out that the deputies arriving on scene or that were on scene didn't do anything. Some of them stayed outside.
They actually, I have a body camera that I've played on my social media, and that they pulled up and they heard the shots, if you could believe it. Kids, like it's not like you're at a liquor store. They pull up to a school with his children in it, and he's taking his time, put his vest on in the trunk while the shots are going off on the 3rd floor. And the school resource officer they drove him to the building where the doors were, and told him the shooting is going on inside, and the killer was still on the 1st floor. All he had to do was open up the door, and he could have had a clear shot at him or just yelled at him. Most of the time they're cowards. They kill themselves or they surrender. So he didn't do it, and that's when he was on the 1st floor. So if he would have just went in the building, he could have saved everybody on that 3rd floor, the deputy. And with my investigation and getting the governor elected and meeting with the DA, they recently they arrested him, that deputy, for not going in, and it's all because of me working with Ron DeSantis, the governor. If he didn't become the governor, we wouldn't have seen any accountability.
What did you think when you heard those reports that they didn't really do any action?
Oh, there was just made me so sick, man. There's so many. There was like 6 of them, like 3 or 4 of them. I can't even keep track. Lost their jobs now, because also the governor removed the sheriff of the county.
Right.
A sitting sheriff is a pretty big, bold move. That the first week he got elected, Ron DeSantis. He's going to run for president. Ron, he's got a good shot at it.
Okay.
So the first week in office, Ron removed that sheriff that failed everybody in the community. And then the new sheriff came in, who I know, and they removed, I think, 3 or 4 of the deputies now that didn't go in with their investigation. So, all I could do now is get accountability for my daughter from everybody, from the school board to the sheriff's department to the mental health people. They all failed her.
After Parkland, we also saw, for the first time really with a school shooting, we saw a huge amount of students speaking out. And became overnight celebrities, really. If you think about it, a lot of these students were on news shows, as you were, but these students really came out and said, no more school shootings. And I know you have opinions about those students.
Well, it's the facts, what I'm going to tell you, because I lived it. I don't need to make it up. They got on the bandwagon on gun control. And if it was gun control and I did my investigation, I would have been right there with them. But when I look into all the failures, how everyone let everyone down, no gun law would have prevented him from being able to buy that weapon. What the problem was, he committed so many crimes. He threatened people's lives. He punched his mother's teeth out. He trespassed at the school. He carved swastikas into the table at school and had the N-word on his backpack. Never arrested. So he dreamt of blood to his mental health caseworkers.
And he was allowed to go back to school.
Yep. And he never was arrested for all these things that he did.
Okay.
So if he would have been arrested, first of all, it would have came up on his background when they looked at the FBI. They got a tip he was going to be a shooter. The FBI, we didn't even get into that. They failed my daughter miserably. They never followed up on the tips. So if he would have been arrested, it would have showed up on the FBI's list when they pulled in on the computer. Or if he would have been arrested when he went to go for threatening people's lives, which is a felony, he wouldn't have been able to buy the rifle. So that's what I look into. That's why if you read in the news lately, they're stopping a lot of these mass shootings lately. People are seeing something, saying something, but then you got to prosecute these sociopaths. You know what I mean? They're terrible people. They're criminals. What do we gain by not arresting these people? So you need, like the Dayton shooter, he did the same thing at school. He threatened people's lives. He threatened to rape people. Same thing with my daughter's murderer. If you don't arrest them, they don't have a background, right? So if you arrest them, that's what I want. I want, if someone's threatening people's lives, punching their mother's teeth out, doing hate crimes, they should be arrested, and then there would be a background. So that's really what should be going on, and it is starting to go on now. When people are saying something, you're seeing it in the paper now. These people are getting arrested and are being charged with felonies.
Yeah.
So then they won't be, the laws are in place to prevent them from buying a weapon, but they need to be arrested, so it goes on their background. And if you don't arrest these people, which these policies that we could talk about that started with Obama, these policies of not holding kids accountable doesn't give them a background. So it doesn't make doing any background check isn't going to make a difference if we don't hold criminals accountable and arrest them.
Yeah. And you also have told me that you feel there were several factors. It was almost like the perfect storm in this case because there were so many different issues. What you found out? So many
that, and I know it's facts. Like I have it all. We documented it, and we did interviews, and I spoke with so many people, resource officers, mental health people, teachers. Over a year's worth of research to document it so I could educate parents so that they know what's going on in their schools.
What do you think parents, your book is really geared towards parents to make sure that this tragedy doesn't hit any other family. What is your advice for parents? I mean, should they be asking questions about an active shooter drill, like how they train? I mean, what should we be asking?
The main thing is, like, I've met with the president a few times and senators, governors. We did so much on school safety, but after meeting with them, and they wanted to help, but they can't really do much for parents at a local level because there's kids like this in every school. Like they can't, parents can't just say, like parents will say, "Oh, it can't happen to me," because that's what I said. Then it happened in Texas, in Santa Fe. You know, then it happened in Ohio. You know, it's going to keep happening. So parents, the best thing was they could see what happened in my book and see all the failures. But it's very important because these leniency policies started by Obama. Just say so your kid's not even, so there's a very good chance your kid will never get shot at a school. But you're putting them in an environment, like at my daughter's school, they're allowed to get 4 misdemeanors per school year, if you could imagine that, the kids. 4 misdemeanors without getting reported to the Department of Justice. So it's crazy. So parents should know, do you want to put your kid in that environment?
Right.
So to me, I don't want to really, not that I don't, all these guys are my friends, these politicians, but for me, I want to, like, I couldn't say, like, I could literally say I didn't know, right? Because I didn't know what was going on at the school. They had to, if you could believe it, they frisked this kid every morning before school, and he couldn't even come in with a backpack.
Because he was labeled
he was dangerous. Yeah, but they let him into school with my daughter, but they didn't tell the parents. So it's up to the parents. Like, parents, I didn't know. Now, everyone on your podcast should know, are these policies going on at your school, right? Because you're responsible. Parents, you know, the president isn't responsible for your kid at the school. Everyone writes me, what has the president done? You know, because all these Trump haters are on my social media. The president did a lot, but, you know, I know he did a lot, and I met with him 6 times. He had a whole federal school commission, but he can't do anything for parents at a local level. It's the parents that have to get together and say, you know what, this is insane. You know, we can't have kids. You know, we all want to help kids. I'm not for not helping kids that are problem kids, but where are the rights to the kids that just want to go and learn? Like my daughter, she wanted to go to school, hang out with her friends. 99% of them want to just do that, but they don't get any rights for being good kids. If you're a nutcase, right, and you're violent, they give you more rights than the whole rest of the school. And they group them in as, some of them as special needs also, even if they're violent. Like if a kid has dyslexia or he's learning disabilities and he's not disruptive, that's great. Let's put him in the school. Right. Let's mainstream him. But the problem is they have these mentally sick kids also, and they group them in. So between that and the leniency policies, and they're in Oregon, these policies are in a big part of the whole country. You know, I was just telling you, California, and now it's going to be law in California. Can you imagine? If a kid's disruptive, they can't suspend them or expel. And that's going to be in the public schools.
They're making that a law.
It's going to be a law in California. And, you know, hopefully Oregon, I'm out here, I can't have Oregon come and be another California. You know, we can't have that. But parents, it's up to you where you send your kids to school. You decide what environment, and there are options for parents. That's what I tell them. I don't want to talk to politicians no more. I just want a parent. You know what? I don't want to hear, like I could honestly say, like I said, I didn't know. Parents now listening, you can't say, "Oh, I didn't know that kid was in the school with my kid." You need to know, and you're responsible for your children, and that's why I wrote the book, and that's why I'm out going to do this book tour. So I want to be the last one to say, I can't believe it.
Right.
I didn't know, and I can't believe it happened to me.
What do you say? Well, first of all, you became very famous overnight. The nation saw you. It was like a study session at the White House?
Listening session.
Session.
And I wasn't even supposed to go to it. It just happened last minute with the president.
Did they call on you? Did they ask you to speak, or did you want to speak?
Well, what happened? He's a good guy, the president. And don't believe everything you hear on the news.
I mean, a lot of people would disagree with that.
Yeah, well, they don't met him. I met him personally over the last year and a half, 6 times, and he's listened to me. He formed a federal school commission because of when we sat down and I met with him. He made over 100 recommendations to make schools safer. But like I told you, it doesn't matter what he says at a federal level. At your local level, they do whatever they want. They don't have to follow the policy. They don't have to listen to your governor either. So he did that. He met with me a few times, and that was so he called me, not him personally, you know, like one of his staff members called me and wanted me to go to D.C. And I said, I'll come to D.C. if he'll meet with me. I don't want to go and be part of a group.
Nice negotiation.
Yeah, because I didn't need a tour. My daughter was just murdered. I don't care about meeting the president at that point. If he wants to sit and be serious, then I'll sit and talk with him.
Nice.
But for a photo op or to go get a tour, I didn't need that. My daughter was just murdered.
Do you think that listening session was just sort of made for TV, or do you think it was important?
No, I didn't go for it. I didn't know about the listening session.
Okay, gotcha.
I just went. And he accommodated my family. My 2 sons came, and my daughter's boyfriend. We sat in the Oval Office, and that's when he took notes, and that's when he decided to put the federal school safety commission together. And then he goes, you know, we're going to meet in the other room. Do you want to come with me?
He invited you, okay?
Yeah, and I didn't. He goes, you don't have to. We're just doing. He goes, I said, all right, we'll go. And then they put some chairs in the back row, and then they were just talking, and then I gave that speech.
You got fired up.
Listen, my daughter wasn't there.
Yeah,
I'm fired up now.
This was what, a week after?
A week after my daughter was murdered, and you know, like I said, everybody, even Fox was on gun control. I just wanted to find out the facts, and then even you know when we tried to find out the facts from the school board, they weren't very transparent, and the superintendent, this guy Runcie, who's like I can't stand the guy. He said it's fake news, everything we were asking him. And then even some of the other families, okay, you know, that are Democrats, it's a big Democrat county, would go to the school board meeting, and they went for accountability over these programs, and they bust people in, and they called the families for wanting accountability racist, for wanting accountability on an African-American superintendent, which it has nothing to do with color. I look at kid at not color. I look at kids need accountability. It doesn't matter what color you are. So they called them racists, and but now you know it's all coming out, and I did my investigation, and it's the parents' choice. You want to go on a gun control bandwagon, and not look at what the facts are, then roll the dice and send your kid to the public schools if those programs are there. But I really want people to see what's going on with it.
Yeah.
And it's in the book. And I don't want them to say they didn't know. A parent can't say I didn't know when something happens at the school.
Yeah, and I think a lot of groups and media, when something like this happens, we immediately go toward gun control and mental health. It seems to be that way.
Yeah.
What do you say to people who look at you, Andrew Pollack, and say he's a gun-loving on Fox News all the time, he's in this box, and we're not going to listen to him?
I would say that what's crazy, I'm going to tell you. So the whole thing when it came out is I just wanted to be a school safety guy. I want the teachers safe. I want my students safe. Okay? And just because I said that, I want school safety. Maybe we need more guards. Maybe we need a single point of entry. Maybe we need more mental health.
Yeah.
All those things I said if I don't say gun control, I'm labeled Republican. It's
Exactly.
sick. It's freaking sick.
It's
man.
insane, actually.
It is insane. So I don't want a gun debate with people. I'm not a
Right.
gun expert. Listen, when we fixed the airports, was there a gun debate? When we fixed the federal buildings, was there a gun debate? So
but
now,
you just hit it. You just hit it. If we're looking for gun control, oh, that's the Democrats. If
Yeah.
it's not gun control, oh, it's the Republicans. And there's
don't
no
get it.
one issue, right?
well, it should be just school
Let's
safety.
fix it.
Yeah, fix it. Why can't we make the schools safer? Why are you labeling me? So
Yeah.
if I just want to fix the schools. So really it was, if that's what they want to label me, I'm fine with it. I want my kids, all the kids safe, and I want the teachers safe.
Right.
I don't need, there's a gun debate for 200 years. We're never going to solve all the gun issues. Why mix that with school safety? Make the schools safe. And a big part of it, we have laws in place to prevent criminals from buying guns. It needs to be implemented, okay? And the mental illness is a big issue. So when people have a mental illness and they're violent, they need to be committed, and it needs to be put on their background. If we don't do that, they have no background.
Right.
So we're not protected. So they need to really put a big emphasis on putting that on people that are violent. And there's a lot of mentally ill people that are violent, making threats. What are we not doing by not putting that on their background?
And keeping them safe.
Yeah, they're keeping them safe. But look, they could always buy stuff illegal. Look, drugs are illegal. Drug addicts get it, right? But it would just make it a little harder for people to get it legally. They wouldn't be able to get it. And I don't have an issue with, nobody does, preventing mentally ill, violent people from getting a weapon or criminals from getting a weapon. So I really, through what I've learned, if we just did that, we'd end like 70% of the mass shootings. If we just arrested people for making threats and we put mentally ill people, we put that on their background. But, I just want people, there's a lot of people with mental illness. I'm talking people that are violent and make threats. The doctors know who they are.
Right.
From an early age, they know. So there's no reason to let them be able to purchase a gun.
But I think we agree on that. I am sick to death of separating groups and opinions. If you have this opinion, you must be part of this group.
Yeah.
If you have this opinion, you're a part of this group. When really something like a school shooting and fixing it and not having it happen again is not going to be one. It's not going to be one thing. There's going to be several factors that go into it.
Several things that go into it, and we did it in Florida. Florida's a Republican-run state. Thank God. We got
Wait,
some
are you
good
Republican?
people. What do you think?
Teasing you.
I'm living out in the country here. So, but I'm Republican. I want school safety, so that makes me a Republican. But Florida, we did a lot of stuff. We reached across the aisle in Florida. A lot of people are against these red flag laws, flag, whatever they call them.
Red flag, yeah.
Red flag. A lot of Republicans are against it. But, when they do due process, they're very good. They're saving a lot of lives. In Florida, I didn't write the bill, but I worked with other people to get it done. I wouldn't have put this in there. They raised the age to buy a rifle to 21. So we bent, you know what I mean? Both sides gave in Florida, and we raised the age to 21. I wouldn't have had it in there, but we had to give to get, like in marriage. You married?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
I am.
Okay, so
A lot of negotiation.
It's like a marriage. So, and that's how government should be. Listen, it's always not one way. So in Florida, we got a lot of stuff passed. And a lot of people could learn from what we did in Florida. There was a mass shooting. We had Governor Scott, a good friend of mine. Now he's a senator. He didn't just have a special session on gun control. He formed a commission of like 14 commissioners. I was on it. A bunch of people, like sheriffs, lawyers, to look into what happened so we could prevent it from happening again. This governor, like the one in Virginia, the guy's having a special session on gun control because of the shooting in Virginia Beach. So in order to prevent things from repeating itself, you should look into the facts of what happened. And when I looked into a lot of the facts in Florida, he never had a background, this kid. And he should have had one, and he never would have been able to purchase the rifle. So that's a big part of like what I talk about with the mental illness and arresting criminals.
When did you start writing your book?
Well, what happened was a reporter came down from D.C. who was an expert in education policy. And we spoke, and he started writing an article. And then I kept giving him witnesses to talk to. And he says, Andy, it can't be an article. We got to do a book. So we started documenting everything we did with the research.
He's a journalist or a writer?
He's a writer. He works for the Manhattan Institute.
Okay.
He's a senior fellow in the Manhattan Institute.
Okay.
And he was there to do an article. He was there, a journalist, to do an article on because what happened was the superintendent, he said, so the Promise program was this program of giving these kids chance after chance after chance. So the superintendent at one of the school board meetings said the killer was never in the Promise program while in high school.
Okay.
So when he said that, the bell went off. I go, why is he being so deceitful and saying he's a Harvard grad while in high school? We thought to ourselves, this guy's lying, man. He must have been in it when he was in middle school. And a month later, it came out he was lying. It came out he was in middle school. That's how deceitful the superintendent is. So then we started doing our investigation, and it came out that it's all these policies that are in schools throughout the country that create a culture of leniency throughout the school districts where kids aren't held accountable.
So the book was started shortly after?
Shortly, and then we decided to make it into a book. And now we have a screenplay, too, that we put together.
Look at you. What's the name of the book?
Why Meadow Died.
Okay.
The People and Policies That Created the Parkland Shooter.
Okay. Why do all of this? Why investigate? Why fight so hard? Why write a book? Why travel so much? Why talk to the president 6 times? You know, you could really just move somewhere and just grieve.
I love my daughter so much, and she deserves accountability. And I despise these people like you wouldn't even know. And I didn't always. I was never political, you know. And the love that I have for my daughter, I can't let these people get away with it. So, and if I could, I'm saving lives right now. I know I am because of the law that I got passed, and the people write me throughout the country how now they have armed guards at their schools, and they thank me. And like I told you, I don't want another parent to say they didn't know, you know, and that's the purpose of my book now. I don't need the politicians I'm friends with. They're good guys, but they can't help you at a local level. And I don't want a parent to say, oh my God, I can't believe it. I didn't know. There's options, okay? Yeah. And I'm miserable. My life's done. But why should a parent put their kid in an environment like I did? And I didn't know. It's easy to find out. Read all the facts that happened to me. You could go to your kid's school. You could talk to I don't even think they have armed guards in Oregon. Do they? They don't. It's crazy, you know. You're rolling the dice.
They're school resource officers.
But are they armed?
I believe so, yeah. Okay,
so then that's a start.
Let me check on that.
I don't know, but listen, you guys might think I'm overreacting, you know, this is Oregon, but listen, these school shootings, you know, I wouldn't do it, man. From what happened to me and what I see with other families, and everyone says, you just don't think it could happen, but then it happens. So I know that there's a Christian school in Medford, someone just wrote me that now they have a guard at it. But I wouldn't put my kid, and then I would go make sure all the doors are locked, make sure there's single point of entries. You know, I don't think I'm overreacting, but your parents are responsible. You know, if a kid gets shot, you know, God forbid something happens in Oregon and there's no armed guard, it's not like the parents didn't know you need armed guards at the school.
So parents need to ask questions. They need to go visit their school.
I would go there after, see if you could get in. What's the security like?
Right.
Are you okay with it? You want to roll the dice with your kid every day? I don't want to do it. And like, you know, of course, I was like everyone else that's watching it. It can't happen to me.
Yeah.
You know, how did it happen to me?
And the idea of doing that, the idea of asking questions and looking at policies and going to the school, I mean, that sounds like a pain in the ass, but if that's what it's going to take
if your kid doesn't come home at the end of the day.
And this is the life we're in right now. This is the world we're living in.
That's what I tell people. I can't, like I sound like I'm overreacting, but we can't fix society. You know what I mean? The population's doubled since I was a kid, and you can't fix society. But you could put your kid in the right environment.
You can.
You know, even if he doesn't get shot, do you want him with a kid that's committing crimes in the same classroom? They can't suspend him or expel. And these programs, I know they're in Oregon.
Are you going to do anything to change programs in Oregon now that you're living here?
I'm educating parents. That's what I want. I don't want to work with bureaucrats.
You just want to help families.
Yeah, but I don't want Oregon to turn into California. You
Right.
know, if I could help in any way like that, I'm open. I'll probably be meeting with the GOP here in Oregon. And my main thing is, though, parents are, it's up to them whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. I don't want to hear it. It's up to you are in charge of your kids' environment,
Yeah.
right? So if you're a Democrat, you know what I mean? I don't care. I'm telling you the facts. You take it for what you want to, take it for what I'm telling you.
When does the book come out?
September 10th. They could pre-order now on Amazon, which will
Okay.
help me. I want to try and get onto the New York Times bestsellers list. And I'll be starting my book tour. I don't even want to leave Oregon. I'll be here.
We
I'm
have
here
that
now.
effect on people.
Yeah, I don't want to leave. I love my ranch that I bought. But I have to go and push this book out. And so parents get the word out that they know what to look for and
Yeah.
know where to put their kids in school. Because I always tell them, if you can't afford private, I would do whatever I could to send my kid to private school, knowing the difference of the policies, that they don't have to take these kids that are troubled in the private schools.
Yeah.
And if you can't afford it, then you could always homeschool, or there's certain charter schools, but there's options. I even tell parents, I say, well, then you got to move.
And there's some excellent public schools too.
There is.
that are doing everything right.
Everything right. You have to look into it, and maybe you got to move to where that school is.
Okay.
But I wouldn't roll the dice, knowing. I know there was a friend of mine's sister worked by Portland. They almost had a shooting. The coach had to tackle the kid coming in with a shotgun.
Yeah.
That was recently. Luckily, that coach was there to stop it. But these policies are in Oregon, and read my book so you could educate yourself some more.
Okay. Are you going to run for office?
I don't know, man. I can't. What's his name? Kavanaugh's was a saint compared to me growing up. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're talking about Judge Kavanaugh?
Yeah. You see what they did
So
to
they
that
would
guy?
start digging up some dirt.
Not dirt. It's just, who wants to go through that crap,
No,
I don't
not
want to
me.
go through that, man. I'd rather help. I like help. I got Senator Scott elected. I helped Ron DeSantis. I'll probably help be on the campaign for the president in 2020.
For Trump?
No. What do you think? Of course.
Well-
He's a good guy. You know what I mean? I know you people, a lot of the people over here, you got a lot of Democrats, and yet they're watching CNN. I met the guy. Listen, he's got an attitude, the guy, but he's different than the regular politician. He really cares about the country. He's the furthest from a racist. He invited me to a Hanukkah party where I was with his son-in-law, who's Jewish. His daughter converted. He's got Jewish grandkids. And people say he's like part of the white supremacists or something. I don't get it. I spoke. He had my rabbi. I was there with him at the White House, and I spoke. So he really means well. He's got a little bit of an attitude, a little bit of narcissism, but he is the president, and I respect him for it. He means well, and he says what's on his mind, and I could relate.
Yes, you can. You can relate to that. I've never met the president. I just ask that he stay off Twitter. That's all.
Some of the, he
That's
tweets
it.
some stuff, but yeah, I don't know.
That's just me. That's my opinion.
That's okay. I don't have a problem with you saying that.
All right. Andrew Pollack, we're going to wrap up and get to the final three. Thank you for being here. I know you've told your story a lot. This is the second time I've heard it, actually, but it never gets easy for you. I can see it in your eyes.
That kills me when I think about my daughter all the time. It's really heart-wrenching, and even in my book, I try and read some of it, and it just kills me to read what my son wrote, stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's almost 2 years, and I don't see it. It's not getting better.
And it just occurred to me, no matter if I or anyone else agrees or disagrees with your opinions, at the end of the day, you lost your kid.
Yeah, I lost my kid, and it's facts of what I'm telling. I have no political agenda to push. I wasn't into politics before this. So I just ask that you look into this stuff at your kid's school and make the proper choice of where you're going to put your child.
Okay. So again, thank you for being here, and we will dedicate this podcast to your gorgeous Meadow.
Thank you.
Let's get to the final three. Best advice you've ever been given.
Oh, my father always told me, never quit one job till you have your next job.
Good advice, Dad.
And that's I always live by that. And he always brought me up to want to own my own business. But I never quit a job until I had another one, and that's always stuck with me.
Sounds like your dad and maybe even grandpa, very hardworking family.
Yeah, I always worked a lot, and I don't regret it. I have semi-retired now, and I'm able to, enjoy what I can right now.
That's good. You're in a good place to enjoy life.
Yeah, man, I couldn't be happier being here in Oregon, to tell you the truth.
We're happy to have you in Southern Oregon. You're moving to Eagle Point?
Yes.
Okay. It's a beautiful place.
Oh, I love it. I'm out on South Fork, Little Butte Creek, and it's real quiet out there, and endless trails and hiking and hunting and orchards and you name it.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question. If you ever left this place, what would you miss about it?
I would miss the beauty of the mountains and the weather, and what's striking too to me is coming from New York and the East Coast, the people here are just so nice. I meet people and they could just want to talk to me for you know what I mean? It's almost like what's going on here? I don't know.
What's your agenda?
Yeah, exactly. But people are just so nice, and I made some new friends. I actually made a good friend just looking at someone's house to buy. And then he ended up inviting me over for dinner, and now we're good friends. I'm hanging out with him Sunday.
That's how we do it here.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen in Florida. Someone would, go look at someone's house, and then they end up inviting you to their house for dinner, and now we're good friends.
Well, don't be surprised if me and my hubs invite you over for dinner and your wife.
Well, we'll come.
This is what we do.
Yeah, we're going over there Sunday, and I really, like I said, it's like night and day, East Coast to West Coast. But it's a little, I got to get used to it. It's a little slow, but because I'm used to being, getting
slow.
Things done is a little different, but it's something that I'll have to adapt to.
It'll make you slow down.
And I'll have to just deal with it.
Okay, just deal with it. Last of the final three, if you were ever given a final meal and a final drink, what would that look like?
Well, there's a restaurant in Brooklyn that I always used to go to.
Yeah?
What was it? Peter Luger's. Steakhouse in Williamsburg.
I've heard of Peter Luger's.
Yeah,
They're
I would
quite
go
famous,
for
right?
the Chateaubriand. I used to go and get the Chateaubriand for $2 and eat the whole thing. And it's a famous restaurant. They have like the big salad, tomato salad, and they have the big steaks. And
the steaks they slice and they put it in clarified butter.
They slice it if you want the butter, but it's just like probably one of the best steaks you could get, and that's in Brooklyn, Williamsburg. Peter
You get
Luger's.
The one for $2 and you eat the whole thing yourself.
And I'm a Scotch guy. I like a good Scotch, but I've drank a lot of expensive Scotches, and my favorite Scotch is Dewar's. My grandfather drank it, and it does the job.
It does the job. Steak and Scotch. You're a man after my own heart.
Yeah, that's it. I'm easy. Men are easy compared. Just feed us.
I'm kind of easy too when it comes to food. I mean, just give me a good steak and a good glass of red wine, and
there's plenty of good red wines around here.
There's a lot. You're in a good place.
Yep.
One more time, thank you for being here. I do have one final question for you.
Sure.
It just sort of occurred to me. You seem, you in my eyes, you are somewhat of an activist because you are fighting to get justice for your little girl. Do you feel like, and I'm not saying you are not at peace, do you ever feel like, will you get to a day where you think you're at peace? That you're done?
I'm not done yet because there's some other people I need to hold accountable. I got 2 more people on my hit list that are responsible for my daughter getting murdered. One was the sheriff. He was removed. And now I have the superintendent. And whoever signed that document, they signed the document to not hold kids accountable and not have them arrested. Mm-hmm. So Superintendent Runcie is one, and then there's another person. I'm not going to mention his name. He's on that document too. So I have to... I'm working on that, and it's a big part of my civil suit and the grand jury investigation. That's a big thing that's going on in Broward right now. The governor put in a grand jury into the school board, so I'm hoping that they help me find some more accountability. And I don't know about being at peace. Maybe one day, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's hard.
Yeah, it's tough. I live day to day. I don't really plan. Now I got this book tour I'm going on, but I'll be looking forward to even when the book tour's over and I could come back to Eagle Point and then relax.
That's all you can do, man. One day at a time.
That's it. One day at a time, and jump in my side-by-side, and it's pretty cool. I could drive to Fish Lake with my son. You ever been to Fish Lake?
Yeah.
What about Lake of the Woods? You been there?
Yes.
So it's pretty cool. So from where I bought, I could hop in my side-by-side and drive up through this mountain and take the back roads to those lakes. So it's pretty,
Lucky guy.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
There's a lot of people who've lived in Oregon their whole life, and they're jealous of you right now.
They don't even know that. There's people that live down the street from me don't even know they could do that. They're living there like 10 years. I'm not
Awesome.
even. I didn't even close yet, and I found the path to get to that. That was unbelievable. That place, Lake of the Woods. I really liked it.
Well, enjoy the book tour.
Yep.
And enjoy your new property. I'm really happy that you're here and you're settling in. And I'm going to let you go because your phone is absolutely blowing up. It's blowing up. It's good because you're focusing on me. I like it.
I didn't look it.
If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes and you like it, please subscribe, rate, and review. It helps other people find us. We're also on Google Play and Stitcher. You can check out the video portion of this podcast at ktvl.com. Just click on features and then off script one more time. Andrew Pollack, thank you so much for being here, and look for your book.
Awesome.